Want to tell you a story that I'm honestly really surprised Hollywood has never picked up on this because I think it would make an amazing psychodrama. And that's the story about a man that neuroscientists call Elliot. You see, Elliot was a successful businessman. He was known to be a good father, a good husband, and then doctors found a brain tumor. And the position of that tumor was in his prefrontal lobe. And so the surgery that removed it damaged part of his brain, part of his frontal lobe. And here's the thing, after his surgery, his IQ was still really high. It was in the 97th percentile. His memory, fine. Logic, fully intact. The only thing that Elliot lost was his ability to feel emotion. Everything that we've been told about emotions says that Elliot should have become a better decision maker, right? It's pure logic. No feelings clouding his judgment. He'd be like Mr. Spock in a business suit. But instead, his life fell apart. Not despite losing his emotions, but because he lost them. You know, we've been told our whole lives that emotions are the enemy of good decisions, but Elliot is walking proof that we have had that backwards. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Hey everyone, I'm Rob Volpe, the empathy activist, and welcome back to Reading Between the Lines. My empathy wonder twin, Maria Ross, and I just released episode 3 of our podcast series, What Does It Mean to Be Human? And this episode is all about emotion, what it's for, how humans and other species seem to use it, why it isn't actually a weakness, and what happens when machines like AI start performing emotions back at us. There's a lot that Maria and I cover in that conversation, and the link is in the show notes, so please go give it a listen. And you know, there's actually one story that I didn't include in that episode, but showcases some of what we were talking about in the role of emotion and reasoning in our decision making. I'm going to share a little more of that here, and that is the story of Elliot. Elliot is actually a real patient. It's a pseudonym, but he was written about by the neuroscientist Antonio Damasio, who worked with him. Damasio is at the University of Southern California, where he directs the Brain and Creativity Institute. He is also associated with the University of Iowa. Damasio starts working with Elliot after the surgery, and Damasio is stumped because Elliot tests brilliantly. He's intelligent, he's got language, memory, it's all there. But Elliot's struggling. He can't hold a job. His marriage collapses. Elliot's life is unraveling, and Damasio can't find the deficit. And then finally one day he sees it because Elliot can't decide anything. Choosing how to sort papers in his office consumed an entire day. Imagine that. You're like, oh, I need to sort this stack of papers and get those filed away. Elliot was getting lost in the details of the papers rather than seeing the sort of the larger picture of the task that needed to get done. He knew that he had choices on how he could sort it, if it was in chronological order or some sort of prioritization or topic. He was paralyzed. He couldn't make the decision to move on. And this is what Damasio figured out. Without emotion, every option weighs exactly the same. Nothing matters more than anything else. The whole landscape of the decision goes flat. Because emotion is the thing that helps you understand what matters. So it's not really the noise in the system the way some people would like us to believe. It is actually the system. It works with our rational brain in order to decide. And Damasio has a quote that I love. He said that he continues to be fascinated that feelings are not just the shady side of reason, but that they help us reach decisions as well. You see, your feelings, they're data. They're your values, they're your history, your conscience. It could be guilt, shame, joy, longing, and all of that's encoded and delivered to you in the moment that you need to make a choice. When you take all that away, the logic doesn't actually get purer. It gets paralyzed. Now, why does this matter right now? Because all of us are carrying an Elliot around in our pocket. You see, AI is extraordinary at logic. It can predict based on the things that it knows and the information that has come before. It can process more information than you and I ever could, but it doesn't feel anything. It doesn't really have any skin in the game, so to speak. And so that means that when it's making a decision for you, the value landscape that it's considering, the kind of what matters part, it's all secondhand. It's borrowed, it's guessed at. You could say it's kind of playing with half a deck because it's only got the rational side. It doesn't have the emotional piece. And those two things have to work together. Maria and I actually talked about this in this episode. Imagine that you let AI do your grocery shopping and make the decisions for you. Now, logically, store brand mac and cheese, it's cheaper, it's basically the same product, and AI knows that you're saving up because you've got a summer vacation going. So it's going to put that in your cart. Perfectly rational decision. But as Maria pointed out, if your kid only eats the blue box mac and cheese, the Kraft brand, and if that's not in your pantry at home, there is going to be hell to pay. And AI can't know that unless you actually are telling it, because the attachment to that situation, that scenario, isn't logical. It's all emotional. You're trying to diffuse a tense situation with your child if you get the wrong mac and cheese. And it's actually an example of that balance between emotional and rational thinking. Another example, and this happened in my own house, Charles and I were picking something to watch a couple weeks ago. And we had just been in New York. We'd gone to see the Rocky Horror Show on Broadway and discovered that there is a documentary called Strange Journey that's about the making of the original Rocky Horror Show. And since we'd just seen the stage production, all of this was top of mind and found it on one of the streaming services. But then we discovered it was $5.99 to rent instead of free. And Charles was like, yeah, do we really need to pay for it? There's a lot of other free stuff. So I had the clicker. So I started to move us along. And all of a sudden, that rational point was overtaken by emotion and balanced out. And a minute later, he said, you know what? Let's watch it. It's only $5.99. So wait a minute. What just happened? Well, you had emotion. There was nostalgia for that great experience, memory of a great night. And then there was curiosity. We wanted to learn more about the origins of the Rocky Horror Show and its journey to the revival that we just saw on Broadway. So $5.99, that ended up not being a solely logical problem. There was a feeling decision that came in. Initially, he was like, rationally, no, we don't need to spend $5.99 for this. But then the emotions came in, and those two things started working together, and we were able to make a feelings and rational decision. We have $5.99 that we can spend, so that removed a barrier, and the emotion felt right, and that became the right decision. And so here's the other part that I really want you to hear when it comes to AI and emotions. You've put in a prompt or something, and it goes, hey, I hear you. That's a great question. Or, that's brilliant. That's all performative emotion. It's almost like Elliot, but in reverse. Where Elliot had intellect without feeling, AI is using the language of feeling without anything underneath it. Elliot couldn't have feeling. He wasn't experiencing it, wasn't connecting, he wasn't able to express it. But in this case, AI is trying to express it without really truly feeling it. And that can be concerning. And Maria and I talk about that a lot more in the episode. So I encourage you to check it out. And I'm certainly not telling you to not use AI because I use it, Maria uses it, a lot of people are using it. But what I'm guiding is to understand which half of the decision AI cannot do for you. The logic part, if it's a logic-based rational, what's the best thing for me to do based on all these different logical, rational criteria? Go for that. But the what actually matters half, that's still yours. That's the human part. I think that's part of why when AI is writing for people, it comes out a little soulless. It doesn't actually understand the feeling and how to put that essence into the work. So that's what you need to do. Now, of course, emotions are a lot. They can be really volatile. And so we don't want to suppress them. That's not actually the skill. The skill is about reading your emotions, understanding what they are and where they're coming from. And this is where the curious breath comes in. And you've heard me talk about the curious breath before. I am forever grateful for being taught this myself. The idea here, what's important is that you want to be able to name the feeling. The neuropsychiatrist Dan Siegel has a phrase that for why this works. He's like, you name the feeling in order to tame it. Name it to tame it. But in order to name it, you've got to be able to have the space to recognize what it is. And the curious breath can help you do that. So when you feel a reaction rising, you maybe get heat in your face, you can feel your blood pressure. Take that curious breath, that big inhale where the lungs push out against your rib cage, and allow the space to expand, and your parasympathetic nervous system actually relaxes. That is your fight, flight, or flee or fawn reaction system. You want to relax that because that's what's giving you the space to actually find the emotion and name it. Is it anger? Maybe it's fear that's underneath it, or there's disappointment or embarrassment. There's a wonderful tool for this called the feelings wheel. I will link them below. And those help take you from the core emotion into the nuance of what you're actually feeling so that you can name it in order to tame it. Because a named emotion, that's information that you can use. The unnamed emotion is kind of like a driver with its hands on the wheel of your car, and you don't want that. So the curious breath, that big, deep inhale, pushing the lungs against the rib cage, hold it, and then exhale. That helps you find those emotions. It's dismantling judgment and asking good questions pointed at yourself. What am I feeling? What is it telling me? And then you can decide what you're going to do about it. Now, none of this means that emotion should run the whole show. The psychologist Paul Bloom wrote a whole book about this called Against Empathy. And he's not actually against empathy, but he is for the combination of rational thinking and emotions and balancing that out. I've written and talked about that before. I will share a link to that video in the show notes. And while the story of Elliot proves that you can't decide without feeling, you also can't make a great decision on feeling alone. You've got to have both of those working together. And for those of you that feel like you may get overwhelmed by the emotions and that can overcome the rational side, you want to think about being a colander, not a pot. Just like when you're making pasta and you're pouring the water in the pasta, you don't pour it into another pot, you pour it into a colander, because you want to keep the information that the emotion is telling you and let the excess energy and emotions drain away. Keep the good stuff and let the rest of it drain away, because this is emotion plus reason. And that's not a design flaw. That's the feature. That's how we as humans have been built. And this might be one of the most important features of being human. So if this resonated, please go listen to the full episode with Maria. The link again is in the description, along with the feelings wheel and Damasio's book. And please subscribe to Reading Between the Lines and share this video. One more thing. Many of the hardest conversations in our lives, especially the conversations with our aging parents or with our adult children about our own aging, many of those conversations stall out because we lead with logic. The real thing that's getting in the way are the emotions. And that's what my next project is about. And I'm still looking for people to talk to. I'm looking for adult children, aging parents, professionals that work with them. The link is below to sign up, to participate, and have a conversation with me. And I hope that you do. So that's it for this edition of Reading Between the Lines. I'm Rob Volpe. Stay curious, ask good questions, and let empathy follow. Take care.